All right. So, by the way, does this banner look familiar? And it was pretty wild seeing myself, geez, 8 years ago. What a young face. But, but that whole video, to give you an idea of what it was, we had over 13 schools on the South Shore of Long Island come together with, we had a few hundred volunteers coming out. It's all a matter of doing our part, and that's what it's all about. And that's what SDG 14 is. It's about identifying the life below water. And we should all be conscious about this and proactive about ensuring the health of our oceanic systems. So, and that's why I'm really excited to introduce our new guest. So we have Mickey, and Mickey's from the Ocean First Institute, and I was sent over some clips of what she's going to be showing us. And I wanted to be surprised by this because I think this is going to blow your mind as it's going to blow my mind as well. So Mickey, welcome to Planting Seeds.
Well, hello, Charlie. Thank you so much for having me on tonight.
I love the background, by the way, too. The whole blue theme.
There you go. It's the water.
So So what I was looking at when I was looking into you guys, I was like, this is great. I mean, you guys are a phenomenal. And what's wild too, and we're going to get into this later, I think people are going to be very surprised geographically where you guys are located.
Yes.
So tell us, what is the Ocean First Institute?
Yeah, so the Institute was started 5 years ago. I was living in Florida and ended up coming to Colorado, of all places, and living in Boulder, and really wanted to merge my two passions, and that is research as well as educating the public about what's happening and really using storytelling as an opportunity to get people engaged in what's happening. And so we combined education and research really with the goal of conservation. And so the Institute, we run a lot of in-school programs to teach kids about ocean literacy and what's happening in the ocean today, with a really positive message of it's the very small things that each one of us can do to really make a difference. And our research that we do in the field really brings the stories to life about iconic wildlife out there and their stories and some of the struggles they're facing and what some of those struggles are. And again, how all of us can be part of the solution if we just knew what was happening.
What made you decide 5 years ago that this was it?
I think it's just because I've been a researcher for so long and I love my academic research, but I feel like it's a disservice if that academic research and those stories don't reach as wide of an audience as possible. And so I really feel that it's important to take research to the next level and to really use it as a tool to engage the public, to engage young people in this movement, to really understand what's happening and to learn the very simple things that each of us can do every day to make a big difference. Even if you live in Colorado, the ocean impacts us every single day and we impact it. And so it's a simple story, but it's a complicated one because we don't learn about the ocean in schools. Kids don't learn about that, and it's really silly. And so we are aiming to change that and to create a whole generation of kids who get it and who want to make a difference and will make a difference.
You are on the right show right now because that's what we're that's what we're all about. It's bringing the education, the sustainability education, to call to action, micro baby steps, and understanding how to start getting involved and, mixing it in. And, that's why we have the entertainers here as well, because the entertainers here are part of creating this vibe. And you know what? We're educating them. They're entertaining us. And now they get to educate their audience, the people that they like, that are following the music. Wow. So Mickey, wild. So how is it running an oceanic conservation group out of Boulder?
It's a blast, honestly, because we get to talk about our passion and the things that we love with people here, and we also get to go and do our research around the world. And I take students with me on a lot of the expeditions. So we train students how to scuba dive, and then we take them underwater with us to do research. And I'm really passionate about teaching students how to do science and what science really is, so that they can really get excited about it and understand that, being a scientist isn't geeky at all. It's really the adventure of a lifetime. And I want to share
Yeah.
that with young people because it's, being able to answer questions and, test things and, you're almost like a detective and trying to figure out past ecosystems and why do we have megalodon sharks and why aren't they here anymore? I mean, there's so many cool questions, that we can ask and try to understand. What does that mean for the future?
I love that. It's so true too, because I have a lot of friends that are cultural anthropologists, and some of the videos that they show me where they're doing these massive expeditions through jungles and zip lining here and climbing mountains and going into caves. I'm like, that's not geeky at all. You got to have some. You got to have. Yeah.
It's true. You when you're a scientist, you never know what you're going to discover. And, you have to be very inventive. When I go out on research trips, I have to create equipment and I deploy cameras underwater and I'm trying to see movements of animals at night, and so I have to come up with ways to rig lights and to deploy equipment at depths which aren't good for cameras, and it's cold, and so you have to be incredibly creative and resourceful, and duct tapes and zip ties and things like that. Save the day.
That is awesome. So how often do you go out on expeditions?
It depends on the year, but I might go on 7 or 8 trips a year, depending on my schedule and what's going on. I've got a couple of trips coming up here in about a month, which is going to be really exciting. I'm going to be going to Nantucket, so working kind of off the Northeast Atlantic, and then another up in Canada, up in Nova Scotia. So I'm really excited to do those.
That is beautiful. Have you hit the Northeast?
I
yeah.
I was in Canada last November, deploying those underwater cameras, looking for great white sharks. It was really amazing, and it's a beautiful area, and lots of seals and sea lions, which is one of the reasons the sharks are there, and just gorgeous. It's a beautiful place.
Those are my old stomping grounds. I used to live on a trawler, so it was just it was a blast hitting those areas. So tell me now, so do you have your own vessel or do you charter?
We don't have a vessel. So usually when I go out on a trip, we either will commandeer a vessel for our whole crew, or if we're doing a collaboration and there's a vessel involved. For instance, the trip I'm coming up on soon is with OSearch, and so that's a collaborative opportunity where a lot of scientists work together on the vessel, and it's just a really cool platform for a lot of different researchers to collect a lot of data on animals that are there. So it's a neat thing. But yeah, we go all over the place. I have a lot of research I do down in Costa Rica, and when we do that, we rent vessels and commandeer boats.
That's awesome. That's I want your job.
One. I love it.
So, by the way, have you ever worked with the Sea Shepherd before? Just out of curiosity.
I have met him, but I have never been out on.
You've met Captain Paul?
Yeah, I have.
That's cool.
But I've never been out on a trip with them at all. I haven't done that yet.
I'll link. I have. I'm working with some of them out, and right now they have their sailing vessel in Newport Beach, and I'll gladly make an introduction. And because I have to go out there anyway, they're begging me to go out there to sail from there to Catalina. So I was like, all right, cool, perfect.
Nice.
So, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna heel that thing right over and put it on a full tack and get that thing cruising at 10 knots. So tell me, I know you have some videos lined up, and I'm looking at the titles of some of these videos, and I didn't pre-watch them because I want to be surprised, because I'm like, wow, okay,
great.
And I think our audience is going to be as excited to see some of these videos. So you tell Steven which one that you would want to queue up first, and let's jump into it.
Well, sure. I'll just do a little primer for you. So, as I mentioned, my background is in research, and my passion and my my excitement comes from studying sharks. That's my big thing, and sharing their true story. They are amazing creatures with a long history on our planet. They're just
Yes.
amazing. There's over 500 species. They all have different adaptations. Their story is truly incredible. They lived through 5 mass extinction events, and some of them lay eggs and some of them give birth to live young. So they're truly fascinating animals to study. And one of the ones that I have spent a lot of time studying are hammerheads. They're my all-time
Wow.
favorite. They have such a cool story. They're the most recently evolved sharks in the ocean, and we don't really know exactly why they have the weird head shape. I studied their weird heads for a really long time, and just trying to get your arms around the diversity that we see in sharks, and also understanding that right now, sharks are in trouble globally. Not
Hmm.
all of them, but several species are in peril, and it's mainly overfishing and for shark fin soup. And so, as I've had a research career and did a lot of work in physiology and things like that, as I continue to do research, I really have discovered so much more that's happening to the ocean. And so I use sharks as a hook now to really talk to people about some of the big issues that are facing the ocean today. And again, using these opportunities as conversation starters for people to understand why sustainability and some of the things that we do are so important. So I'd love to share with you.
Wait, real quick before you jump into that video, you just blew my mind with one big fact. So hammerheads are the newest evolved shark species.
Oh my gosh. So their story will blow your mind. Yes. So they are the most recent sharks. They're the newest kids on the block.
Wow. Okay.
So not very long, maybe 10 to 12 million years. So in shark time, that's nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's nothing. And then what's also cool about them is there's not just one. So you might think, oh, hammerheads, scalloped hammerheads, the weird looking one. Well, there's actually 9 hammerhead species, and they all have different gradations of their head expansion. So some of them look almost like normal sharks, and then others look like literally boomerang heads.
Yes. Yes.
So crazy. And then everything in between. And so some of the genetics that we did early on with them shows the weirdest one came first. And so as they've
really
separated out, their heads are kind of getting more and more normal, for whatever normal really is, kind of that pointed nose shark head. But the fascinating thing about it is, if you have a head that's stretched out 3 feet wide, what has that done to where your eyes are, to where your nostrils are, to your head, which is full of all kinds of sensories, systems like the electrosense. So sharks detect weak electric fields. So if your head is a huge 3-foot wide cephalofoil, what has happened to all of those sensory systems? And that's something that I studied, and it's just fascinating.
That's really wild too that you said that the weirdest ones, like that boomerang style one, was the first one.
Yeah.
I would think that was the later on evolution.
I did too.
Yeah.
It's like, as a scientist, you're like,
becoming more normal. Like, wait, why did that mutation happen?
Exactly. And we think that's it. It was some sort of random weird mutation that was not so bad
And
that
thrived.
persisted. And then these animals, geographically moved on and created new species, as they do. And each of these species are really unique. Some of them get to be 18 feet long, big.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
Others 3-4 feet. So they're just really a weird story. The size disparity, the head shape is just, they're freaky.
I'm loving this conversation right now because I'm being schooled on something. I really have such a passion about sharks as well.
Yeah.
And just, it's that inner, the inner, shark fan boy, I guess.
Oh, I tell you. Yeah, they're amazing. Have you spent a lot of time in the water with them? Have you?
No. I'm not an in the water person. I'm more so like on top of a floating platform.
Well, you should come diving with me sometime. I could introduce you to the world of sharks underwater, which is the best way to see them.
I will take you up on that because I'm trying to get more adventurous and going under the water. I'm starting with my lake.
Look out for bull sharks. You never know.
No, my lake is good. The most dangerous thing in there is a snapper turtle. I'll be with him. So, but Yeah, let's jump in with this clip. That I can't wait to see what this is.
Well, cool. So one of the first ones, let's do this. Stephen, if you can cue up the measuring white sharks video, this is a really cool
Measuring white sharks. Okay.
So I was invited out to an area called Guadalupe in Mexico. It's
Yeah.
off of Baja. It's like an 18-hour boat ride to the middle of nowhere, and you're on a rock. And I was invited out there because there was an opportunity to try to understand the sizes of these sharks, which come back year after year, and they know individuals based on body markings. And so the question is, well, how big are these animals? Great whites get to about a maximum size of 22 feet. And so the question is, how big are some of these? Like deep blue is a very famous white shark that sometimes goes to Guadalupe. And so the question is, how big are they? And so we wanted to develop a technique that would allow us to measure the sharks without dragging them out of the water. And so I met with students here in Colorado, asked them to help solve this problem with me. And we came up with a non-invasive technique. And the students helped me build this rig using, it's called twin laser photogrammetry. And so if we can roll the video, I'll show you how it's done. And it's really cool. All right, cool. So, sorry, there's sound on that one. You can turn the sound off. So I'm here. I'm about 30 feet down in a cage in Guadalupe. And you can see I'm holding that rig. It's got two green lasers on the ends, and they're set 50 centimeters apart. And in the middle is a GoPro camera. And so all you need to do is, as the shark swims by, you can shine those two laser lights right onto the side of the shark. And then when you go back up to the vessel, you can download the video footage and use computer software and easily say, all right, this part of the shark is 50 centimeters. So how much is the total length of the shark? Or any other part of the shark you're interested in, like the fin length, width.
Yeah. That's so non-invasive too, because I've seen it where they pull the sharks up out of the water, nearly getting killed themselves and just trying to drag, these big giant tape measures across them.
Yeah. So this is it's a really simple way to, collect more data. And so, at Guadalupe, they know the individuals, they know the sex of the animals. And so, by now collecting data, we can really see, easily how long these sharks are. And it helps us as they come back year after year after year to be able to, measure these animals and see what's going on. So it's, so simple and so easy. And so the next video, if we can do, is Caribbean reef sharks. And
nice.
So this one is really fun. I go to the Exumas in the Bahamas quite often. And I take students with me and train them on doing basically that same technique. So we've created a global database. And so this is one of my students here, and she's got the laser rig you can see there, and she's getting herself all set up, and then cue the Caribbean reef sharks that will swim right by. And she's able to then measure the animals and collect data underwater. So in just 1 second, you'll see the Caribbean reef shark, which are harmless, so they would never cause any problems. But you can see the water's gin clear, totally beautiful. And this is such a passionate project for me, because students are diving, they're going underwater, they're overcoming their fear of the stereotypical shark monster, and they're actually collecting data, and then they upload this to our online citizen science database. And it's really cool. So from start to finish, they're really involved in the scientific process. And for me, that's as cool as it gets, because they're doing something to help conserve wildlife. I've been on airplanes with them as they're coming home, and they're talking to the stewardesses about what they did. So it's cool. And, they're seeing that science isn't, boring and beakers and lab coats, and stuff like that. It's going out there and trying to make a difference to save animals that don't have a voice. And it's pretty powerful.
Isn't it amazing too, when you have students participating and all of a sudden you impact them and they get that aha moment and they sit there, and it's like, to me, that's the most inspiring piece of this is, working with the future and inspiring the future. Like, look, we'll help guide you. We'll give you the solutions we have now, but figure out the next steps, figure out the next solutions.
Yeah, I would tell you that's probably my elixir in life, is that I believe so strongly in paying it forward and trying to get these students to have the opportunities that, will open doors for them to allow them to thrive and to really, like you just said, create the tools of tomorrow that we don't even know of, and to solve the problems that, my generation has created, like plastic pollution. And, so many of the issues that are out there are just heartbreaking. But, we do have solutions, and they will be the ones that come up with these creative opportunities and solutions that will be implemented in their lifetime. And, that's, to me, that's really important. It's really critically important to let them know they can do something. And also, I think the other big part of it is to show them that the problem isn't so big that you have to be paralyzed.
Yes.
Because that's another really bad thing. I hear a lot of adults are like, oh, it's too late. It's all over, and it's like, yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And this is why I'm so honored that you're on the show with us. I mean, CUSH stands for keeping us sustainably healthy. And we're really trying to drive this, like, of bringing real, tangible, sustainable education and sustainable tactics that work to bring it to the education and show the younger population that, hey, there's things out there that you guys can get involved with and be a part of. And think about, with what you're doing. I mean, this is phenomenal. The experiential learning component of this is you're in the water with sharks. You're in the water with real nature and real wildlife. Normally me, I'm in a mountain somewhere, and I'll see bears. I'll see, the deer or an elk. I saw a moose in Alaska, which, it was awesome. I do have a fear of going in the water. I'm not going to lie. I have to get over
it. Yeah, no,
but
very real.
You're bringing it into that natural environment, into the ocean, getting people to see it, getting people to explore it. That's the type of the education and experiential learning that it's so important for everyone who's coming up and wants to give and live with impact and live with purpose. There's things out here like this that exist to get involved with and to be participant on. So you don't have to just sit and vicariously live through a phone. You could join in and be a part of this. So how can people help Ocean First Institute?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just what you said, understanding that it's very small things that people can do every day that really do add up. And that even though we're in Colorado, for instance, that the things that we do here have an impact. And so we know that 80% of the plastic pollution that ends up in the ocean comes from land. And so, our rivers and streams are conduits to our ocean. And so, things that we do here matter. And so one of the things that I would encourage people to do is to get involved in organizations in your local communities that are trying to make a difference. And one of the things that I'm passionate about here in Colorado, so I do a lot of research and take people places to the ocean, but I also believe strongly in really working in our own backyard. And so I have 2 more projects to tell you about that I'm super excited about. One of those is that this year we started a plastic pollution monitoring program. And so I've got 2 high schools that go out with me into nearby streams, and we collect sediment and water samples and then go back into the school, and we use some really cool things that we've created with PVC pipes and sieves and stuff like that. And we look through all of the sediments, and we look for microfibers and microplastics. And microfibers are the things that come out of your clothing, synthetic clothing. And it's so bizarre. You won't believe this, Charlie, but it literally is raining microfibers right now. And there was a researcher in Rocky Mountain National Park who was doing a study on rain. And so he had rain gauges all through the park. And when he was processing those samples, found microfibers in all of those samples. And so it's coming from, it's raining plastic right now, which is unbelievable.
How? Yeah, what is going on? How are those molecules even getting up there? It's crazy.
So they're lightweight enough where they're getting pulled out into the atmosphere, and then it's raining back down as part of the water cycle. So it's a little terrifying to think about the impact of all of that. And so as
Yeah.
part of an awareness campaign, we started this project to get kids to sample the water and the sediments to look for the presence of these small pieces of plastic and fibers. And we're finding them, unfortunately.
Wow.
And so then the question is, okay, what do we do? So
Yeah.
then thinking about how do we wash our clothes? What kind of clothes do we buy? Do we want to buy, nylon and synthetic clothing, or should we try to think about cotton and going to a thrift store and buying used clothes, which sounds a little weird, but there are ways for us to minimize the new production of these cheap synthetic clothes. And so, and it doesn't sound like it would have a big impact, but it does. And I think the next step in the research with that is really looking at how does the presence of those plastics and fibers in the bodies of these animals impact their physiology. And
Yes.
ultimately, we're eating about a credit card size worth of plastic every year.
Don't say that. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh, come on. No. I hope you all heard that. Everyone who's listening in right now, that's for real.
It's so amazing. So that's one big one. And again, thinking about plastic in our rivers, think about what's happening out there in the ocean with gyres full of plastics entangling marine life and things like that. So again, what you buy, what you wear, the packaging things come in, thinking about using and not purchasing endless tubes of toothpaste. There are things that you can buy that will replace the gargantuan amounts of waste and packaging that we utilize every day. So there's just small little things like that, and it can become almost a game. It's kind of fun to think about how many things in your house you can replace with more sustainable products and things like that. So that's a big part of our education programs. And then the next project I would love to share with you is a really big one for me. And you're going to laugh so hard. So when COVID hit, we had just introduced a project in schools where we were going to have them aquaculture a Colorado state endangered fish species.
Huh.
And so we had the tanks all set up in the schools and at this big innovation center and had the fish delivered. And we were so excited. And then COVID hit. And the schools were like, Mickey, you're going to have to take the fish back wherever that would be. So they're in my basement. So
No, you have in your basement right now.
I have 7 fish tanks, big ones, and 1 big cattle tank. And the fish have been breeding like crazy.
Oh, wait.
I have all of these Colorado state endangered fish in my basement, and they are going to be released
Nice.
back into the wild as part of a reintroduction program.
When are you doing this?
So we just had the fish tested for disease to make sure that they don't have any diseases. And then that was the one barrier before we could do release. So we're hoping within about a month, right before things get a little chilly, that we'll be able to release those hundreds of fish back into the wild as part of a reintroduction program. So it ties beautifully into, looking at the rivers, looking at the health of the river, and then, reintroducing these species that have been eradicated, mainly because of changes in the environment. All kinds of habitat shifts have changed and made it very difficult for some of these fish to continue to survive. So
it's too fast for them to acclimate. Things are changing too. I mean, I do a lot above ground again, like with native bees, and we're seeing the same thing with native bees. It's just, as we're transitioning to a lot of our green lawns and all of these pesticides, and all of a sudden we're just introducing all these things in, which also goes into our water, which affects our freshwater systems and our saltwater systems. A lot of nature just can't acclimate quick enough.
Yeah.
And they get decimated, and it's really sad to see. The ones that do acclimate, I mean, they're turning into these evolutionary mutant machines that
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. There's just so many challenges, habitat changes, and then, like you said, chemical changes that are occurring, temperature changes. We're seeing sharks right now moving their migratory patterns more poleward, and that most likely is because they're following their fish food, which are starting to move poleward. So, I mean, we're seeing some pretty dramatic changes, and it's important for us to get these baseline data so that we can see really the acceleration of some of these changes. But again, introducing students into this process and letting them see, how they can be part of, growing these fish and being part of that reintroduction party. And, those are really meaningful moments that I hope someday will change the trajectory of some of these students, lives. And hopefully they'll become champions for the wildlife. And really,
Yes.
it's cool to care about these animals that don't have a voice. It's, you don't have to go, everybody doesn't have to go into the business world to make $1 million. There are so many things that are just so critically important and really a life's work that's worth doing.
And not, and that's the big part of what the message of what we're trying to convey here is. I like to call it an ethical form of capitalism, where it's great. You want to start a business? Start a business that's going to create beneficial impact. Start a business that's going to create a healthier society of our future. So bring solutions to the table such as that. We don't need any more of these trinkets that just sit on our counter because we were spontaneity of a purchase of saying, that looks cute, I want it on my counter. So it's being, we have to be proactive consumers at the same time. And I love that you really hit upon that. It's being conscious of what we're purchasing.
Yeah.
You blew my mind with the microplastics. That really scares me.
Sorry.
Microplastics raining on us. That's insanity. That's like sci-fi level stuff. Soon it's going to be burning our skin. And
I know. Why? I mean, that's the thing is like, why do we allow this? And, that's because we collectively need to have the education. People need to know. And until they know, until they have the facts, they're not going to demand change. And like you said, when then you can start thinking, hey, do I need another tube of toothpaste, or should I buy these, chewable toothpaste pellets? There are so many, and it's just like you said, there's so many cool, innovative, sustainable products that are coming from geniuses out there, and they're using, biomimicry. So they're looking to nature for the solutions to some of the issues. I mean, how cool is that? Evolution has been happening for, since the beginning of time. And so using what has happened in these adaptations in these animals to the environment is the ultimate test. And so we've learned from, geckos how to use, things to help us.
Yes. I'm still trying to figure out the adhesive of a barnacle. If I can figure out the adhesive of a barnacle, I've just invented the best adhesive that could exist on this planet.
Yeah, it's amazing. So nature inspires us in so many ways, from products that we can use through, understanding the mechanism behind it, the biomechanics of it, and, to going to the beach and looking at the water and appreciating it, then to getting, sustainable fish to eat, it feeds our planet. And, looking at, how we're going to protect those resources and make sure they're here for generations to come. I mean, there's so much work to be done and so many people that can fill those, important roles for sure.
You're tackling so many awesome, cool issues. You're so passionate about it. I love your passion. This is so cool. I want you on this show more often.
I love it.
So, all right. So I'm going to go back to the microplastics, and I'm going to hit the sharks with two questions. All right. So on the microplastics end of things and the microfibers, have you noticed if there's anything in nature that is attempting to combat it? Because, I've read that there's some fungus that consumes plastics. Are you guys noticing anything locally that's combating it?
I don't know. I did read some research that there was some bacterial opportunities perhaps to digest plastics. I think another big push that we've seen is not really plastic related, but replacing our everyday disposable plastics with other products like paper plates are now leaves, things like that, kind of trying to divert off of the petroleum based products. I don't know the answer.
So paper plates are petroleum based?
Using, like disposable plates.
Yeah.
Plastic plates. But, I've seen plates that are made of leaves and, so they're trying to.
Those are cool.
Yeah, really cool, new, innovative solutions to kind of these single-use plastics. I don't know the answer. I think really the answer to that is, an industry that's responsible for the waste that it generates. You've probably talked a lot on your show about cradle to grave and ownership of companies that produce massive amounts of plastic bottles. Should they be responsible for the disposal of those? If it costs
That was
them.
actually brought up on our last show.
Yeah.
Exactly that. It's, what is that? What is that? Should they be responsible, and what is the compliance around it? That should there be legislation that matches that?
Yeah, I think there has to be a disincentive for this prolific production of cheap plastics. And until that happens, I think, with, governments and, kind of a global awareness and push, it's going to be tough because right now it's up to the consumers to be educated and to say no and to pay more for
Yes.
sustainable
Yeah.
products, which is so dumb. We shouldn't have to pay more for doing the right
The
thing.
right thing. It's bizarre. It's I'm not going to go down this deep hole because this is a deep rabbit hole. But the whole thing of certified organic, the cost for a farm to just state itself as certified organic, just because the USDA owns the trademark of the word organic, blows my mind.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, you're just going to make healthy food more expensive and less attainable to the general public because of that stupid trademark label.
Right. Which is just, it really makes you start to think about protecting yourself and not just trusting a system that maybe isn't geared towards our health, and really kind of thinking critically about what we put into our bodies, and again what we purchase, and what we value. I think it's really important to think about that, and it's not easy because we're busy, and it's easy to go get food or order food that has been made delivered to your house, but think about the nightmare in all of the packaging, with all of those kinds of convenience items. And I think that's really part of it, is we're so busy we don't have time to live anymore. We're just so busy we don't have time to cook or eat or do anything. We're just on this treadmill.
Well, see, I'm trying to find my personal balance. I was living that New York race for quite a while, and I was forced into it. A hurricane wiped me out, and I was like, okay. So I moved on top of a mountain on a lake and chopped wood for almost a whole year.
Wow.
Just thinking. And I'm like, what can I do to help people? And trying to understand, like, okay, if the average household salary is this, what can I do to take that and turn it into, or find a solution to turn it into a comfort salary? Yeah. So I started living like that for a little bit. I'm like, all right, started growing my own food, built a greenhouse. My first few years, I screwed up royally. Couldn't get anything to grow in the ground. The damn deer ate everything. No matter how many barriers I put up, the deer got through it, or the gopher got through it, or whatever. The birds are flying in, eating everything. I'm like, why is it so hard? But now I'm to the point where it's like, I'm finding these cool comfort spots. We're cooking at home almost every night now, and we appreciate it so much more. My wife crochets all the time, so she makes our hats for us and our gloves for us in the winter. And I'm loving this. And I'm sitting back like, you know what? This is pretty chill. So now when we do go out, it becomes a luxury. And we're conscious even where we go out to eat, to making sure that, is this a restaurant that supports sustainable solutions? Are they composting, or are they giving excess food out to kitchens and such?
Yeah.
And just, it's that whole experience. And that's what we're trying, me personally, I'm looking at this as the life I lived before. We were going out to eat. I went out to eat almost every meal, but besides breakfast, every lunch and dinner, I'm always out, and it became a routine, and it became expected. And then now it's just, when we think of the word sustainability, and I keep saying this, and I'm always going to say this, everyone thinks just ecological. Yeah. But sustainability is so broad. It's economic, it's personal health, personal mental health, well-being, family sustainability, community sustainability. So that's why this month we have the SDG 14, Life Below Water, because what we want to try to do is that you could get so enveloped with the word sustainability and try to do everything at once. So no, let's break it down once a month. Here's a theme. Here's a call to action. Let's all move as one together, and let's educate ourselves all as one together. And with you on the show right now, I know that there's a ton of people on that are watching right now that are saying Mickey is awesome, and I want to go diving with Mickey also.
Wow, that was a very cool story about your life, and I mean, that's the ultimate way to slow down and reframe it, and really look at what you're doing and why you're doing, and that's an important part, I think, of everyone's story is, if we have the ability to slow down and stop and think and look and feel and kind of reset. And I think COVID has been a weird opportunity for some people to do just that. And I think that, even us being inside so much, we've seen nature responding in a very positive way, which is also, I think, a testament to nature's resiliency and the opportunities that we have to help nature reset. And ultimately, when we help nature, we help ourselves.
I want to jump into that with you with the sharks. So you led perfectly into my next question with that. That was awesome. You're my co-host from now on. Okay. So with the sharks, so a two-part question to this. One is in relation to COVID, and you kind of answered it. And I want you to go further into this, where do you feel that COVID is helping the oceanic systems for the sharks habitat? And two, with everything that is happening with the climate change, with the pollution, are you seeing a consistency of change upon species of either reduced population or new way of acclimation of evolution? Are they getting more territorial? Are you seeing behavioral changes? So what do I'll leave
with respect to people going inside and I think having kind of a break from the day to day, the burning of fossil fuels, the people going out in fishing vessels. There's definitely been a big break for wildlife in the ocean, and so I think we're anecdotally seeing a lot of we've seen dolphins returning to the canals in Venice, and we're seeing amazing pods of whales swimming near shore in places they've been seen in 70 years. So anecdotally, there's all kinds of weird things that are happening, and it could be that there is a lack of disruption from human activity that these animals are responding to. I know here locally, we have elk populations. You talked a little bit about that. And, we've seen some of these animals moving into areas. We've even had some panthers coming through lions. And it's just because I think there's not as much traffic, there's not as much disruption. And I think we're seeing that in the ocean too. What does it mean long term? I don't know. I think it, for me, highlights an opportunity that we have to really think about that we can shut down and we can reset some of the ways we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. And if we could just hold on to that and not restart and go back to kind of the usual norm that we had before, it would be amazing. I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if we will do that, but I am hopeful that people have had a moment to notice and think about, some of the things that they're seeing outside their windows, or if they live by the water, some of the amazing abundance of wildlife they're seeing closer in. So I think it's an opportunity for us to, rethink our relationship with nature, I hope, and engage those that don't think about it very much. And that, includes a lot of young people and a lot of older people. I talked earlier about some older people sometimes throw their arms up and say it's too late. Well, it's never too late. And, we have an opportunity always to do better every single day. And that's the beauty of nature, is it's resilient. And if we give it the opportunities and the chances, it will come back and it will sustain us, because we rely on it every single day. It's our home.
Yes, I love that answer, by the way. I love that. And everyone who's listening, I mean, she just nailed it. There's that. She nailed it.
Well, cool. I have another video maybe we could show just to
keep going. Yeah.
let's see here. Why don't we? So this is another really cool research project I'm working on. So we drop cameras underwater with bait, and we will use different light regimes to try to see what animals are there. So, Stephen, if you can play it's called a bruv. If you can play that clip by chance, it's going to show kind of one of our normal deployments, and I can kind of talk through a little bit more about what it is like.
I was wondering what that title was, by the way, bruv. What are we going to see here?
Yeah, so it stands for Baited Remote Underwater Video.
Cool.
And so what you're looking at is it's a GoPro camera on a little cage, and that's a Caribbean reef shark in the Exumas coming in to check it out. And so when you drop these cameras, the whole goal is to put them in areas where you can ask questions about the species that you might find. Are these males or females? How quickly do they come into the bait? And that kind of can help you calculate some abundance, indices on these animals. Are they living by reefs? Are they out in the sand? You can start to kind of tease out some questions about habitat use. And so I'm really excited that we'll be using this. I've been deploying this in Canada, but we'll be trying to expand this project using some acoustic listening stations. We have sharks that have tags in them, and so we can pick up their signals, and we can also try to figure out where these animals are going, and whether or not they're active at night or at twilight. I did a lot of vision studies on sharks and found that their eyes are really cued into that twilight time.
Really?
And you also hear a lot of people say, don't swim during dusk and dawn.
Yeah.
Well, sharks are really tuned to that time. And that's a time when some fish are going to bed and some fish are waking up. And so it's a time of confusion and change. And sharks cue in on that. And if they have a slight visual advantage, it literally could be a life or death advantage. So
look at how opportunistic that little evolutionary trait is.
Yeah. And you wouldn't
imagine just waking up as a fish and just saying, all right. And then all of a sudden the shark is just there because it electrically sensed you and it could see you. And it's like, nope, you're mine.
Yeah. Game over. Like, what do you do? How do you fight that? You just can't hide.
I love that too. So, did you design that stick on the GoPro?
Well, you know what? Everybody's using their own kind of method on that. It's something that a lot of people are using to answer questions, and some of them are pelagic, meaning that they're hanging a little bit down below the surface of the water. And that one that you saw was a benthic one. It was on the bottom of the seafloor. So depending on your question, depending on the depth and in which you're operating, you might choose to do one of those pelagics. And that's cool because when I go out to Nantucket, I'm sure going to find, I'm hoping, some makos, blue sharks, white sharks.
You're going to get threshers.
Yeah, threshers. The tail. Are you kidding me?
I remember the first time I caught a thresher.
Oh, that must have been unbelievable.
I had no idea anything about it. That was the first time I've ever seen a thresher in my entire life. And all of a sudden, as it's coming up and I see it whip its tail, and that tail length is almost the length of the body.
Oh, yeah.
It really hits me. I'm like, what the heck was that? Like, what the heck? Flew out of the water and nearly just slapped me in my face.
Yeah. They're so unbelievable. Their tail smack is so powerful that they can break apart water molecules. I mean, they are unbelievable. And as you know, they use that tail as a weapon to stun fish so they can spin around and then get those 2-3 fish into their mouth. So it's a physical adaptation to maximize the feeding success in these thresher sharks. And their tails are huge. It's like they're the Indiana Jones of the shark world.
Yeah. And they are just a solid mass of muscle.
Oh, yeah.
It was just amazing. I did a catch and release, by the way, so it went back in.
That's good. I had to take you down later.
So when are you heading to Nantucket?
I should be going second week of August.
Really?
So, yeah, not too long from now. Maybe 3 weeks or so.
If you'd like any guests, I'd love to potentially join you for a dive,
All right.
or even up in Nova Scotia. I think that might be you. You might have a hard time up in Nova Scotia, though, aren't
Oh
you?
yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have to. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to quarantine.
I'm not sure. We're kind of trying to figure all of that out right now. We have some COVID protocols, and we're working through all of that right now. And
Just take a boat there. You'll be good.
yeah, in fact, I think that is what we'll do.
Yeah, that's what you should do. Bypass the. Don't even go over land. Just go. I don't know. I didn't realize we are in Canada oceans now.
I think that's what we'll be doing. So yeah, but yeah, I'm super excited, and as anybody who does research, it's in your blood and you love it. And again, it's like being a sleuth. We're trying to unravel mysteries and figure out where these animals are going and where they give birth, and what's going on with them. We have ones that are going to the Bermuda Triangle, and we had one that went all the way from Nova Scotia to Louisiana in just a very short amount of
Around
time.
the Panhandle? Like,
Yeah,
get out of here.
it's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Because that's a whole different. That's a whole different salinity and everything of water, a body of water, temperature, everything.
Yeah, and it was like within a month. I mean, think about how much swimming. And this is a big girl, like a 17-foot female. So it's just amazing what some of these new technologies are allowing us to understand, and again, try to use that information for really good management and conservation.
That is all. Mickey, I just want to thank you so much for joining in on the show. I've had you on here for a long time. You're probably getting sick of me by now. Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to leave off with our audience? And we're definitely going to be in touch, and I would love to. We're going to work together. I know it. So
perfect. Yeah. Well, I think on your screen, you can see that is our website, oceanfirstinstitute.org /take action. That's a page that kind of details some of the things that we talked about today. Sustainable seafood, clothing products, choices, plastics. What do you do if you go to takeout and you get something that you don't think is really sustainable? Can you bring something with you to take that food home with you if you choose to go out? So there's all kinds of solutions, and our Take Action page is just a resource to help people start thinking about the little things that they can do to really have an impact and to make a difference. And learn more about our organization. If you happen to be in Colorado, we take volunteers. We have people who help us on river cleanups. We're doing all kinds of stuff all the time, so we'd love to have you involved with us.
That is awesome. I love it. And that's what the whole Kush community is about, is finding those local spots to get involved with, to be a part of, to take action. It feels good, but we don't want people to feel like it's a chore.
Right.
It's not a chore doing something good. Go out there, have fun. Like our beach cleanup was a blast. We cleaned up garbage for a few hours, and then we just all hung out on the beach. One of them knew yoga. Yoga. I'm like, this is great. This is a fun day out. So
it is. It's fantastic. We do a lot of river cleanups, and then we have music, and we play the banjo and all kinds of fun instruments. And people.
You play the banjo?
I don't play, but I play the banjo. It's pretty cool.
I was like, wow, she's the coolest person on earth.
I wish. All right, I'm going to learn the banjo, and I'll come back. I'll play for you.
Well, Mickey, thank you so much. We are going to be in touch. You're definitely going to be invited onto the show again in the future.
Right. Well, thank you, Charlie, for having me, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing. You're really inspiring. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, have a great evening.
You too.